She walked past him every day, a frail figure huddled in the corner. No one ever noticed him, not even a glance, not even a smile. Her heart ached as she watched him shiver in the cold. Today she decided to do something small, something kind. But what he whispered after receiving her gift would change her forever. Maya was just 17, a quiet girl who often felt invisible in her own world. She lived in a small, bustling city where life moved too fast for anyone to notice the little things. Every morning, she walked to school past crowded streets, shops, and honking cars. But one sight never left her mind. A thin, elderly man sitting on the curb, holding a battered cardboard sign. The words were barely legible. Hungry. Anything helps. Maya didn't have much money, just a few coins saved from her part-time job at the local bakery. But still, she felt a tug in her chest whenever she passed him. The man's eyes were tired yet gentle, a mirror to the world's indifference. People brushed past him without even glancing down, too caught up in their lives to notice the man who lived on the margins. Her friends at school often teased her for being too soft or daydreaming. They didn't understand why she lingered near the curb on her way to class, staring at someone who seemed invisible to everyone else. But Maya felt a connection she couldn't explain. She imagined what it would feel like to have no one care, to be cold, hungry, and unseen. One chilly morning, as the winter sun barely broke through the gray sky, Maya decided she would do something. She rushed to the bakery after school and bought a small loaf of bread and a warm sandwich with her saved coins. The cashier raised an eyebrow, curious at her quiet urgency. Maya didn't care. She just wanted to give it to him before anyone else could, before she could chicken out. As she approached him, she noticed how frail he looked, how his clothes hung loosely on his thin frame. He barely seemed to notice her at first, staring blankly at the dirty street in front of him. But when Maya extended her hand with the food, his eyes met hers, soft, weary eyes that held a depth she had never seen before. She smiled nervously, unsure if he would accept her offering, and whispered, I got this for you." The man's hands trembled as he reached for the food. There was a moment, a pause that felt eternal where the world seemed to hush around them. And then, in a barely audible voice, he whispered something that would forever remain in Maya's heart. "Thank you. No one's ever done this for me." Tears pricked her eyes as she watched him unwrap the sandwich. She had expected gratitude, perhaps a smile, but not the weight of loneliness and relief she saw in his eyes. In that moment, Maya realized that sometimes the smallest gestures can carry the heaviest love. The next day, Maya returned to her usual path, hoping to see him again. But the city seemed harsher than ever. People shoved past her, bumping her shoulder without apology, laughing, or scrolling on their phones as if the world belonged to everyone but the ones who were invisible. At school, things hadn't gotten easier. Her friends mocked her quietly for playing the charity game, calling her names that made her chest tighten. Even teachers, busy with exams and paperwork, barely looked up when she tried to share her experience with the man. "It's nice," they said vaguely, "but focus on your studies." Maya felt crushed. Her heart ached for the man, who she imagined would have no one else that day to care for him. That afternoon, as she walked past the same street corner, she saw him lying there, his face pale and his posture slumped. Fear gripped her chest. Had she waited too long? Had someone hurt him? She ran to him, her small hands shaking, only to see him staring at the ground, silent. No words came at first. Maya offered him another sandwich, but he shook his head slowly, his lips trembling. "People, they don't care," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm invisible to them." Her own eyes filled with tears. She wanted to scream at the world for being so cruel, for ignoring those who needed help. She felt helpless, knowing she couldn't protect him from the harshness of life. Every coin she had, every small gesture, seemed like a drop in the ocean, too insignificant to make a difference. Maya wanted to give up. She wanted to pretend the world was fair like everyone else. But she couldn't. She couldn't ignore the man's eyes, the quiet pain that mirrored something deep within her own heart. The conflict wasn't just in the world, it was inside her. Could one small act of kindness truly matter when surrounded by so much indifference? And yet, in that silence, a tiny spark of determination remained. Maybe, she thought, the world was cruel, but maybe kindness could find a way to shine through, even in the smallest gestures. The next morning, Maya returned to the street corner, carrying not just food but a blanket, a warm hat, and a small thermos of tea. Her heart pounded as she approached him. This time she didn't hesitate. She handed him everything she had. The man's eyes widened, and he whispered, almost in disbelief, "You? You came back?" "Yes," Maya said, her voice trembling. "I didn't forget you." Something shifted in his expression. It was as if the world had finally acknowledged him, if only through her small hands. He took the blanket and wrapped it around himself carefully, sipping the tea with a quiet reverence. Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest, a fragile hope taking root. Over the next few days she continued to visit him. Slowly, a routine emerged. A sandwich, a cup of tea, a smile and conversation. People began to notice. Some sneered, but others stopped, curious. One day, a shopkeeper handed the man an extra loaf of bread without Maya asking. Another day, a woman offered him a warm scarf. Maya realized that her kindness was contagious, not in a loud or boastful way, but quietly, in ripples that reached further than she could imagine. The man's eyes, once filled with hopelessness, now glimmered with gratitude and joy. One evening, as Maya knelt beside him handing over a sandwich, he whispered something that made her chest tighten with emotion. "You reminded me that people can still care, that life isn't all darkness." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She had started with one small act, expecting little, but received a profound lesson in return. Kindness, she realized, doesn't need an audience. It doesn't wait for applause. It simply exists, and in its quiet power it can change lives, maybe even a life like hers, too. The man smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in years. And in that moment, Maya understood that hope, no matter how small, could bloom even in the coldest corners of the world. One small act of kindness can light the darkest day. A sandwich, a smile, a whispered word. Sometimes that's enough. Never underestimate the power of caring, even in silence. Your actions, no matter how small, can change lives forever. Kindness is a language everyone understands. Speak it freely.